Hey guys, Henry here. Welcome back to another episode on the Speed Culture channel. Today we're going to be talking about some of the best suspension mods for your first gen IS. What to get, what's worth it, what may not be, and what may be worth striving for in the future. I'll go over my current setup and what's worked for me, how I use it, and how I wouldn't change a thing. So let's jump in. A little more powerful if we pull it and we actually see it, right? So I'll pull each of the front wheel and the rear wheel and we'll go over each of the things that I've got. It's a minimal setup. Everything I do, you guys can tell, is I try to do as little as possible. When I absolutely need something, I get it. The main goal that I had, and you can see in one of my previous videos, was prepping the car for power, right? So over the years, I did a ton of mods to basically make sure that when the car did make power, it was prepared for it. And I would say at every point of the way, it is. After coming from the track recently at Carolina Motorsports Park, the car kicked ass. I've done so in various track days in the past. And suspension-wise, I just love the way it feels. I think it performs really well. It soaks up a ton on track. So I'll go over my spring rates. I'll go over all the combination items that I've got. Figs Engineering has been great. Fortune Auto has been great. So let's jump in. Let me pull this wheel off and I'll show you what we're working with. All right, so coilover setup. We are looking at Fortune Auto 510 all around. I love this setup. In the past, I actually used to run Fortune Auto 500s. I'm a great fan of Fortune Auto. They have been great to me. I've never had any issues. I used to run Fortune Auto 500s on the setup, and I actually ended up putting those on my wagon at one point, and then I ended up upgrading this to 510s. The 500s are great for a street setup. If you're really starting to track the car and using it up in the mountains and then, you know, spirited driving as well as some occasional track days, the 510s start to be necessary. It really starts to bridge that gap of performance. With this setup, I upgraded the spring rates as well. So I'm up front, I'm running 13K, and in the rear, I'm running 9K. I used to be running 8 and 12. So it was just a small, minor bump, but it has made a big difference. The car is able to still have 4 people in the car and not really rub at all. And you can see here, my fenders are in good shape. Suspension setup has really saved this car over the years. As you can see, there's no fender liner in here. There typically is. It ate it at the track, and I'm sourcing a new set right now, but for the sake of being able to see this, actually it's a good situation here because you can see a little bit more. So yeah, Fortune Auto 510 coilovers, 9K, 13K. I like it on the softer side because I do use this car on the street a lot of the time, and in the mountains, it's still perfect. It soaks up a ton in terms of bad roads and stuff like that, but it still stays solid. It's still stiff enough where it feels sorted. It doesn't really understeer. It's more on the oversteer route, especially the way that I've got it aligned, but it's very straight. The setup is very straight, and I can also attribute that to some of the rear arms and stuff like that. But before we get to the rear, let's still talk about the front. I am running a Eibach sway bar. I like the Eibach sway bar because it is a solid bar. The Hotchkiss bar is hollow, so it's not as stiff. So something else that I have done is really stiffen up the chassis elsewhere other than the coils. So the coils are a lower rate, but I've kind of stepped everything else up around it to make up for it. So it makes for a super comfortable car on the road, but yet effective car on the track. And along with that, I've also done all poly bushing. So everything is super pro poly bushings, which again, help and attribute to the stiffness factor. So it's really not just only about the coilovers. And you know, I think this setup has really made for a very well-rounded setup. So yeah, that's pretty much it up front. Oh, I'm also running the Figs Engineering adjustable end links, and those are actually super helpful for alignment. So those were nice. I used to run the adjustable upper ball joints from SPC, but I had nothing but problems with those. So I wouldn't say they're worth it. You don't even need it to run the camber I'm running. I'm running about -2.5 up front and about -1, 1.2 in the rear. Rear is just the SPC camber bolts to allow for the camber adjustment, but the front is factory camber adjustment. No need for the upper ball joint. The SPC upper ball joint for me got loose a ton, and it would happen over and over again. And it was a 27mm bolt above the upper ball joint, and it was a pain in the ass to get to, and it just sucked. So, you know, not worth it. I don't think anyone really needs it unless you're running extreme camber, which no one ever needs, in my opinion. Up front, that's mainly it. So yeah, when I say all poly bushings, I'm talking all of the arms, the camber arms, the lower control arms, pretty much everything that needed replacement. I mean, you guys know these cars. The Lexuses, they need GSs, ISs, SCs. They need ball joints at one point, and they need lower control arm bushings and all those fun stuff. So as time went on, I just replaced everything with poly, and at this point, everything's poly. It's made for a good setup. I also have the Poly Super Pro steering rack bushings and all that fun stuff. So really everything there is done, and it's worth it. Just little by little do it. I've had the car 10 years, so by now everything's just there. And I did it little by little as it needed it, and as I could. So as I was taking things apart, and it was like, oh, good situation, good time to try this, so did it then. And then brakes up front, not that anybody asked, they are the Figs Engineering Racing Brake 330mm kit, the 2-piece rotors. Awesome kit. Fits under a factory wheel if you absolutely have to, and it brakes hard. It's a good setup. It was awesome on track. It dissipates heat great. Just keep up with your fluid and it'll be an awesome setup. So that is the front setup. Let's move on to the rear and start talking about that. The rear was a big deal for me, especially making power. This is where the magic happens. So let's pop back there and talk about what's going on there. All right, so let's take a look at the back now. So back here, again, Fortunato 510. These are the 9K that's in the back. And then we have Figs Engineering adjustable end links, another iBox sway bar. Then we also have what I really think are the money makers is the SPL arms. So I have SPL toe arms and SPL traction arms down here. And they make all of the difference. The car used to be a little squirrely in a straight line. And here we go. There's that. Look at that setup of the Fortunatos, but the SPL arms are really the money makers. Here I can get a better angle down here. There is the traction arm, and then the other side, and then as well as the toe arm right there. They make all of the difference. The car used to be quite squirrely in a straight line where you wouldn't really predictably be able to tell which direction it was going to go in. With this setup, when it spins dead straight. And it's predictable. And you know where it's going to go, up in the mountains, everywhere it matters, it's straight and it's perfect. So whether you're drag racing or using it as an autocross or track car the way that I do, street track car, that is an absolute must-have. After that, and again, all poly bushings everywhere that I can. I actually still need to do the diff bushings and the subframe bushings. That is my next thing. After I do diff and subframe, then I'm completely done. I have everything done, and I'm happy with it. But the way it sits right now is great. I'm really happy with it. I haven't really needed to do the rest, but again, I think with the subframe and the diff, it's really going to make another added difference with just especially shifting and all of those things. Everything will just be safer. It'll just be a happier setup, but it hasn't absolutely needed it. I haven't found an absolute need for any of that other stuff yet, like the Figs arms, front and rear. I think they're an amazing looking kit. I think they're incredibly useful, especially if you're tracking the car 24/7. But if you're using the car as a street car as well, I think this is all you need. And I really am happy with it. And you know what? Maybe I'll get them one day and I'll prove myself wrong. But where I'm at, I use the car heavily daily, as driving up in the mountains, as driving it on track. I use it as much as I possibly can. And I just love it. It's comfortable. My wife loves it. My friends love it. They get in the car and they still feel rowdy. I can go up in the mountains and they get scared. I go up in the track and it's effective. And now the only things I really want to address are cooling and being able to stay out on track longer. And we are doing so with Powerhouse Racing. We've got some parts coming in to address some of the cooling issues. We had these SPAL fans to keep fighting that. They're sending us their radiator eventually, but right now we're first going to start with a lower T-stat as well as addressing the crankcase ventilation issue. But anyway, this is a suspension video. We're not here to talk about that. I think I've essentially covered it all. If you guys have any questions, do leave them in the comments because I'd like to keep, I know people were asking me about this, so I wanted to run through it briefly. So that is my suspension setup. So thank you guys for watching. A lot more to come. Can't wait to start driving again. stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be up and going. So leave some questions in the comments below. If not, point of view driving footage in 2 weeks. And next week, just some more science, then driving, then more science, and lots of driving in the meantime, because we get to use it again. AC, underglow, cool dash lights. I'm just stoked. Okay, anyway, I'm done. I'm rambling. Goodbye, guys. See you next week. Peace.